Yo, what's good everyone? I am back with another Pokemon TCG deck profile and gameplay video. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Only 10% of the people who watch this that are subscribed, and I would like to hit 1,000 so I can earn that meager ad revenue. Anyway, let's get into things. First off, we got the Ursaluna deck box from the Pokemon Center. It's got a nice little Velcro snap. Yeah, that's real nice. Anyway, the deck I'm going to be showing you guys today is my Roaring Moon deck. It's pretty straightforward, pretty similar to Hushamon's deck, but you know what? Let's just look at it anyway. All right, first things first, you got to have 2 Roaring Moon EX. I only play 2. I know you can play 3. I know you can play even 4 in some of the builds, but there's a reason I play 2. And I'll get to that later when we get to the trainer lineup. But I think you need at least 2. 3 is not bad, but I've cut the other one for space for this other card that I kind of prefer more. All right, 2 Roaring Moon EX and 4 Roaring Moon. These are your only attackers. They have good attacks. Roaring Moon does 70 plus 10 for each ancient Pokemon in your discard pile. And the Roaring Moon EX does 1-hit KO. That's basically what it does. It's a kill button, and that's really useful. For draw power, you got triple Dunsparce, triple to Dunsparce. This card is really busted. I actually am consistently impressed with how good this card is. I think this is the best part of the deck, honestly. Especially once you start chaining them together, it gets crazy. You'll be drawing 6 cards every turn. Make sure you're immune to like Iono and stuff. Really powerful card. Last Pokemon in the deck, Radiant Greninja. Every energy becomes Pot of Greed. If you open up with Radiant Greninja in this deck, you feel like you're on a different level. You feel like you're on a different tier. He's just too good. That's it for the Pokemon. Pokemon Search, triple Artisan. This card is really important. It gets you both to your draw power and to your attackers. It can find Roaring Moon, the baby one, and it can find Dunsparce to set up your draw power. It also acts as a sacrifice fodder for the Roaring Moon EX's second attack, Calamity Storm. That's the combo right here. You search your guy, and then you blow up the Artisan so they don't get to use it, and you deal 220, which is really strong. More Pokemon Search for Nest Ball. Best card in the deck. It searches everything except the Dunsparce. It's really important early to find that Radiant Greninja, like we talked about. And then double Ultra Ball. 4 Earthen Vessel. More Search, not Pokemon Search, but discards cards. Ancient card, gets your graveyard set up, finds the energies. And then the card that I discard the most in this deck, Explorer's Guidance. This card isn't bad. It helps you, especially if you're going first and on your second turn, you just need to dig into a specific piece. It can help there. It's an ancient card, so it powers up your Roaring Moon, and it's just a solid supporter that fits the deck. I think it's pretty bad overall, but I think you want to play at least 3 of it because of the ancient numbers. Getting to 7 ancient cards in your discard pile or 10 ancient cards in your discard pile are crucial numbers in order for you to deal 2-hit KOs on Charizard and things like Giratina VSTAR. That's it for like the search power, draw power, etc. Sawdust is recursion. I guess it kind of counts as draw power too, but you really need to have the energies in the discard pile before you can turn this into a crazy draw engine. And then more recursion, we've got 4 Dark Patch. So unlike the regular ancient deck, you do play Dark Patch in this deck. I've got the Dark Explorers ones here. They look kind of old. I should probably get some of the gold ones to pimp out my deck. You know the vibes. Last pieces of recursion, 2 Super Rods. So this is actually what I cut the 3rd Roaring Moon EX4 is the 2nd Super Rod. I had so many games come up where it's just like, man, I wish I had a 2nd Super Rod to shuffle back Baby Moons or to shuffle back energy cards in the late game, or sometimes even to shuffle back Dunsparce pieces if they're getting sniped. I think that having 2 Super Rods is just super important, especially in like grind games versus control or other decks where you just don't want to mill out, literally versus mill or versus Charizard sometimes. And I figured that if you have 2 Super Rods, you probably don't need a 3rd Roaring Moon EX because you can just reuse the second one. All right, that's it for the recursion. The gust effects, very simple. 1 boss's orders. Could play a second one, but don't have room. 1 prime catcher, best ace spec, and 1 counter catcher. This card is very important. Oftentimes in games you will fall behind, so make sure and hold on to this and don't discard it, especially in the matchups where you expect to fall behind. It can be very crucial to maintain 3 gust effects because one of the most annoying things people will do is when you try to go for the 2-hit knockout with Roaring Moon, they'll just retreat their Pokemon, and you'll be like, well, I wasted a whole turn attacking it, and now I can never get a chance at it again. That's it for the gust effects. And then the last trainers in the deck are like your survival trainers, I guess. 1 penny. This helps your Pokemon survive. You can return, well, I should talk about these. Ancient Booster Capsule. These are pretty good. Actually, really good. They're ancient cards that buff up your HP, and penny works nicely with them. When you have one of these on a Roaring Moon, it makes it really difficult to KO it because he has 200 hit points. and then Penny can just pick that whole thing up after they hit it once, and it just makes it so your opponent is playing an unfavorable race a lot of the time. And then on top of that, I actually like Penny versus Control as a way to move your Radiant Greninja out of the active. The other decks that I've played, like the Ancient Box decks that could play Penny, I ended up cutting it from those decks because I feel like you have a good enough matchup versus Control. You can just set up like a lone Slitherwing and beat them down. Or if they're going after your Radiant Greninja, they can just Erica's out a Koraidon and it's like equally as annoying. So that is... like having one Penny isn't going to fix or change that much. But in this deck, having one Penny does fix or change that because everything is good in the active except that one Radiant Greninja. So I think it actually is worth playing in this deck. And last but definitely not least is 9 basic Darkness Energies. These are pretty important so you can actually play the game. That's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the gameplay. Don't forget to subscribe, though. For real, for real.
All right, gameplay time, folks. Gameplay time. Let's get locked in. Let's get serious. Let's get competitive. Let's get Pokemon, the trading card game. Let's go. Okay, first game's against Charizard. Let's get into things. First game is against Charizard. I actually think this matchup is quite difficult for any deck, honestly. I don't think that there's any deck that has an easy Charizard matchup. But I do think this matchup is totally fine as long as you're playing perfectly, which I think is... kind of a challenge for your boy. Obviously, it's a challenge for anyone to be playing at the top of their game, but practice makes perfect, you know? That's what they say. You just got to practice the matchup a bunch. Maybe watching this can help you guys get some tips on how to approach it. Now, my approach to this matchup is I like to ignore the baby Pokemon if possible and just try to map a 2-2-2 prize situation. That being said, if you don't start with access to the Big Roaring Moon, who's going to be your primary way of taking 2 prizes easily. Or if your opponent plays the Mist Energy and you don't play Temple of Sinnoh, I've included 0 Temple of Sinnoh in my build simply because I can't be pressed to find a 1-of Stadium in key situations, alright? I know I'm going to include it, and it's not going to matter in the moments where I include it. Now, that being said, if Lugia does pick up in popularity more due to Control winning in Stockholm, it's possible we may want that Temple of Sinnoh just for various matchups, but... for the time being, I think that playing a 1-of Temple of Sinnoh is just an inconsistency in a deck that is supposed to be pure consistency. Let's be real. Alright, so our opening hand is good. We do go second, though, which kind of sucks. And he has a Radiant Charizard in the active, which means he hasn't prized his Radiant, which is kind of bad for us. It's okay for us for a couple of reasons, because it's a 3 retreat cost in the active, and Charizard usually doesn't play too many switch effects if they don't play Prime Catcher. And we know he doesn't play Prime Catcher because in his opening mulligans, he had that maximum belt. You know what I'm saying? The maximum belt. So, can't play the Prime Catcher, obviously. A-spec. One per deck, basically. He starts off with Buddy Buddy Poffin, so that's the nuts. Basically, if you have Buddy Buddy Poffin and you're playing Charizard, you've already won. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. But he actually has double Poffin, so it doesn't get much better than that. When you're playing Charizard, that's like the perfect starting hand. If you could stack a starting hand, having double Poffin plus Rotom access, which I believe he does have as well. Yeah, Ultra Ball for Rotom. Discarding the belt and the Technical Machine evolution, so showing he's on an evolution build with probably multiple Charmeleon as well as Pidgeotto. Going for the Rotom V, draw 3, pass the turn. So this is like just perfect turn 1 setup. He's got an annoyingly bulky Pokemon in the active. He's got his bench completely stacked. I am pretty far off from ever getting anything going here, but maybe we can piece together a turn 1 attack, or at least get our engine online in decent fashion. Got to start things off with the Earthen Vessel, pitching an energy to search 2 more energy. We don't want to draw into those energy. We want to get them out of the deck. We want to draw into stuff like Sadas or more Roaring Moons or Dunsparces to get our draw engine going. As it stands, though, we're not going to be Sadasing this turn unless we can find one off the top of this Greninja, which is incredibly unlikely with 43 cards left in the deck. It's like a, what is it? Is it? Okay, 40 cards left in deck, and there's 4 Sadas. That's like a 1 in 10 chance to draw one. I guess it's not that bad with 2 draws. So it's like 2 1 in 10 chances. That's not bad. Anyway, but still, we don't get there, so it doesn't really matter. Pitch a couple Explorer's Guidance. You really don't want to be spending your turn playing Explorer's Guidance past the first turn of the game. On the first turn, it's pretty good to get you set up, but generally, the later the game goes, the worse Explorer's Guidance gets. So I feel pretty confident discarding those, especially because we have draw power in the Radiant Greninja, so we're going to be able to Explorer's Guidance, see 6 new cards, and then our next turn we'll be able to see 3 new cards. So we're going to see 9 new cards towards another supporter. I'm not worried about discarding the double Explorer's Guidance, and I want to get them in the graveyards, or discard pile, I should say. I want to get them in the discard pile so that Roaring Moon is pumped up and dealing enough damage to take down stuff like Pidgeotto, Charmeleon, that sort of stuff. Possibly even Rotom or Radiant Charizard once we get to that point. Do a little prize check. See what's prized. Always got to do that on the first search. Now we've prized double Dunsparce, so it's going to be an uphill battle. We not only don't have access to a lot of our Dunsparce engine, I believe we had prized a couple Roaring Moons as well. So wait, let's go back and just take a look at that just so we can be certain. Going through the deck, checking the prizes, checking those boys. We prized an Artisan. Yeah, we prized single moon, double Dunsparce. So a lot of Pokemon in the prizes for us. And we're not going to have as streamlined a draw engine here in the mid to late game, which is pretty crucial against Charizard, I would say. If you don't have like that stream of attackers, that constant stream of attackers into this matchup, it can be really, really hard. So, like, if you're ever missing your attack for a turn, it usually just goes in their favor, because Charizard's never missing an attack. Let's be real. They're a one-card setup. They just play the Charizard and they get the energies. So, it's not hard for them to miss it's not hard for them to get the attack, I should say. It's easy for them to get the attack, so they won't be missing. But you potentially could, depending on how many Dunsparces you can stream together in a row. Anyway, we just tool up, attach the energy pass. Not much we can do first turn. A little bit of a slow start, but taking 1 prizers is not amazing in this matchup because generally speaking, I like to play a 2-2-2 prize map. I like to go for a knockout on a Charizard. I like to go for a knockout on a Pidgeot, and then a knockout on a Charizard to close the game out. Realistically, if you can fit a Rotom in there, that's ideal. But realistically, that's how most games are going to go. It's going to be Charizard, Pidgeot, Charizard. Usually, you're going to be KOing the first Charizard with 2 attacks from Roaring Moons, the basic ones, and then you'll use both of your Roaring Moon EXs to close out the game. Usually. That's just kind of a general vibe. If they play the Mist Energy, things do get complicated. You're going to need to figure some stuff out, boss around some stuff. He evolves into Pidgeotto. Pokemon T.C.G. Live has this wonderful bug where it just doesn't show you the cards. It's actually really annoying. But thankfully for us, he has a pretty slow turn too. So we're able to get back on the board despite him having the nuts turn 1. He is going to be able to set up a Pidgeotto, which is frustrating, and a Charmeleon. But no Bibarel is nice, and no Charizard turn 2 is nice, and his Radiant Charizard still in the active is nice, so can't really complain here too much. We draw a 3rd Dark Patch. A little bit frustrating, but they're pretty crucial in this matchup if you manage them properly, which, spoiler alert, I may not. Anyway, we did Dunsparce into a couple Sadas and Explorer's Guidance. Very frustrating to Sadas for only 1 energy, so I'm going to try to draw into another Roaring Moon here. That being said, we did prize 1, so there's only 2 left in our deck. The potential of us hitting 1 here is very low. Gonna Earthen Vessel once again to try and thin the deck before we go for this Trekking Shoes to try and hit like a Nest Ball or something. Mill the Dark Patch. Mistake number 1. Milling the Dark Patch. I should have just kept the Dark Patch knowing how important it is in this matchup, but I really wanted to hit another Roaring Moon here to try and Sawdust for 2. Alas, it's not going to happen. We're just going to Sawdust for 1. We draw 3. We find Artisan, which is nice. It's nice to have Artisan when it's also not really benefiting the opponent when they're already set up, so it doesn't feel as bad. We're going to have to grab Dunsparce here. We can always grab the Roaring Moon next turn with our Artisan. And unfortunately for us, we just can't get another Ancient in the graveyard to get this KO. Now, I say unfortunately, but it's actually not too bad. Dealing 150 is kind of funny because it means we can get a Dunsparce for the last prize KO if it comes down to that with only 1 energy. So it's a little silly, cheeky thing you can do if something has 10 HP left. So that could come up. That could be kind of hype. And also, it means that Charizard EX is not going to be hitting us for 210. That's kind of a crucial number. And this is kind of why I like to go for the 2-2-2 prize map in this matchup. Because if you KO 1 Pokemon, it doesn't really affect your prize map. It doesn't really progress your game that much. It makes it so you don't have to kill a Charizard later on. It means you can KO a basic and still have that same 2-2-2 prize map, but takes an extra turn. But that being said, it makes it more difficult to streamline attackers because Charizard dealing 210 can KO a Baby Moon with a tool attached, whereas when you haven't taken a prize, Charizard can't KO Baby Moon with a tool attached. So it just makes them take extra attacks to KO your one prizers, which is obviously ideal for you. You want them to struggle to KO your one prizers. That just buys you extra time, makes it so they need more cards like Turos to stay in the game. It makes it so their counter catchers are weaker as well. They can't just counter catcher up your Dunsparce, etc. He's going to switch into Charmeleon. He does play the switch, surprisingly. I don't know how many of them play more than one switch, but he does have it in his deck, and he's able to tutor for it. He's going to Charizard, attach some energy, go for that vibe. He can attack me for 180 here, and he's going to do that, which makes sense. You just got to start damaging stuff. He could have elected to take this turn to Rotom a bit, but I think getting the damage in play is pretty important. It means he can take a KO with a Lost Vacuum later on as well. But we're still going to be able to get a swing in with this Roaring Moon. We do top deck a Roaring Moon a little late there. It would have been nice to have it last turn so we could Sawdust an energy onto it, but going to go ahead and fire off this to Dunsparce so we can get a Dunsparce into play. And this is where I make probably the biggest mistake of the match. If you look at this hand, I could play Roaring Moon down and then just triple Dark Patch and retreat into it and then knock out his Charizard. That being said, it's a little bit risky because then he can have a 3-prize turn where he knocks out my Roaring Moon EX with a Charmander or something of that nature, and then he Lost Vax my other Roaring Moon. Not in that order, obviously. He would Lost Vax first, but that's kind of the vibe, basically. I would take 2, he would take 3, and that's kind of awkward. And I would be not getting the maximum value out of this Roaring Moon that I've put here in the active. That being said, he has Pidgeot in play. So if I bench this Roaring Moon, he can just search bosses. And that's not good for me, right? That's not a vibe. So, I don't know. I think at this moment in the game, it is, as per our game plan, best to just KO this Charizard and take the 2 for 2 and then go into the late game, right? I think given the nature of our hand and given what's happening here, but I take this opportunity to get a little more value out of my Roaring Moon, and I'm not sure this is correct. I'm not. We're going to search that Dunsparce again. Already, Dunsparce has drawn us 6 cards. So, keep that in mind with, like, value. We only have 1 Dunsparce active because we've prized double Dunsparce, and we've still already gotten 6 cards of value out of it, which is amazing. This just goes to show the power of the Artisan Dunsparce engine and why this deck can actually function in competition with these tier 1 strategies like Charizard as well. So, it's pretty solid draw engine. I'm not gonna lie. It makes sure you have the card stacked, the card stackness. I burn a Dark Patch for no reason. For absolutely no reason, I burned a Dark Patch. I should not have burned a Dark Patch, and the reason is because you need these to go for your Roaring Moon later on. That was just straight up a mistake. Like, just I would say a misplay. You want to stack your Dark Patches. I've already milled one of my Dark Patches, and now using a second one means I only have 2 Dark Patches to work with to power up a second Roaring Moon EX for my standard prize map. So, big misplay there. We're going to go ahead and Nest Ball, bring out another Roaring Moon from the deck. We're going to Sawdust, attach. Now, I should have ignored the Dark Patch play and just Sawdust to both of these moons and not done that, obviously. That's the huge mistake here, but hey, you live and you learn. You can't. So here's the thing: you can always Super Rod back energy, right? You can always Super Rod back. So you have a lot of energy to work with. And you can always search them with Earthen Vessel and whatever. So hard attaching energy is not that bad, but you can't Super Rod back Dark Patches, and you can't rebuy that speed once you've used it. So you really want to save that speed for the turns where you need that speed, like the turns where you need to put an attacker into play, power it up all at once, etc. And I think that there's a strong argument for this turn being a turn where I should have done that. I should have played the Roaring Moon EX and played the 3 Dark Patches. Now, the reason I'm showing you guys this game is because I don't play perfectly, but I think in a lot of instances, it's better to learn from misplays. I think it's better to analyze this and see why we don't do certain things in certain matchups, etc., etc. Now, he has an opportunity here to Turos his Charizard. That could be something he does to set us back pretty far. He ends up going for an Eerie, which is really, really costly for us. He can take double Dark Patch. He elects to take Dark Patch plus, I believe that was Counter Catcher, which is also another great card for him to take, because Counter Catcher is one of our only 3 gust effects that can pull up a 2-prizer, like a Rotom or a Pidgeot. So it can make it very difficult for us to take the last 2 prizes if he's like attacking us with a Radiant Charizard later in the game as well, if all our gust effects have been used. So he goes ahead and just attacks for the knockout, doesn't go for the Lost Vacuum KO, which I'm pretty thankful for because that means also the Ancient Booster. Energy Capsule is going to hit the graveyard, or discard pile, my bad. You can take the graveyard out of the player, but you can't take the player out of the graveyard. Is that the phrase? I don't know where we're going with this. But, yeah, now I'm looking at my hand and I'm realizing I've messed up. At some point, I've messed up. I've lost my Dark Patches. I've got a couple Super Rods, which don't really amount to much other than more manual attachments for me that are too slow for me to compete with Charizard. If you're manually attaching to a 3 energy attack mon like Roaring Moon EX, you've messed up somewhere. You've messed up. He's got a damaged Charizard, which means I probably shouldn't even bench this Roaring Moon because he can just gust. He can gust it up. Once we knock out this Charizard, his next one is going to be dealing 240, so it can very easily knock out this Roaring Moon EX. So me even benching this is a mistake, but I've got to threaten something, right? I've got to make him search for bosses so he's not searching for, I don't know, Mist Energy or something. I don't think I should have benched it. Honestly, I should have saved it for a surprise attack on a fresh Charizard. I was just a little bit scared if I didn't bench it, then he would Iono me. But I've got Dunsparce in play, I've got Greninja in play. If he Ionos me, I should be able to draw enough cards to piece together a Roaring Moon. Even misplay number 4, number 5, I don't even remember at this point. I've misplayed so much at this point. I Dark Patch onto the Roaring Moon, thinking like, oh, I'll attack with Roaring Moon this turn. And then I'm like, wait. Sorry, Roaring Moon EX this turn. And then I'm like, wait, his Charizard already has damage. What am I even thinking? I've already used my supporter, so if I don't hit my one of Prime Catcher, then there's no reason for me to even be powering up this Moon right now to KO this damaged Charizard. It's a waste of my resources. I should be spending a 1-prizer to KO this 2-prizer. Oh my gosh, it's just all a mess. It's just all a mess. And you can see here, like, if I had just played the game well, this would have been a 1 game. Because my opponent didn't have the Mist Energy. He didn't have ways to combat my Roaring Moon EX. We would have been able to pull ahead on the prizes. We would have been able to keep up the hand size. You know, it would have been fine. We would have been okay. But as it stands, like, because he missed on some crucial stuff. He missed on his Lost Vacuum. He missed on, Mist Energy, of course. He's missed on the turn 2 attack even. So, because he's missed on so much, I could have definitely won this game had I played a little bit better. I'm giving a little bit of spoilers, but as it stands, I'm just in a really bad spot. I've got a 2-prizer on my bench. My opponent's like just more set up. He's got the active Pidgeot. My Roaring Moons are not really doing enough to an active Charizard. They can KO the Rotom, but they can never KO this Pidgeot, so I'm not really in a good spot. I need the Roaring Moon EX to KO the Pidgeot, you feel me? And I'm out all of my Dark Patches, so I can never play a Roaring Moon and attack with it in the same turn. Or Roaring Moon EX and attack with it in the same turn. Sorry, I keep getting them. I keep saying Roaring Moon. They're both Roaring Moon. Too many moons. All right, anyway. Yes. Anyway, you get the idea. He can search bosses. And then he can also Forest Seal Stone for stuff and set up a by barrel. And, it's just so bad. It's so bad for your boy here. It's so bad. And we can't KO anything. We just can't KO anything. And we can't set up anything fast enough because I burned those speed cards. Huge misplays on my part, burning the Dark Patches. They are too crucial in this matchup. Do not waste them. If you do play this deck, do not waste your Dark Patches in the Charizard matchup. This is what not to do 101 in the Charizard matchup. But yes, it's also good to watch your replays and stuff. If you have OBS or something on your computer and you record your matchups, you can kind of learn from them a lot. I think watching back one replay is more informative than playing maybe 10 games. That's pretty awesome. It makes it a lot easier to reflect, and it makes it a lot easier to improve as a player. At this point, I'm just like, what am I even doing? I can't even power up this Roaring Moon. I just lose. I just have to hope he doesn't have a bosses or something of that nature. It's just over. Basically, if he Ionos me, it's just over. So I don't even know. I'm just lost. I'm just dead lost here. At this point, once you let it get to this point, it's over. So I think that most of the work in this matchup is done in resource conservation with regards to the Dark Patches, being able to stream back-to-back gouging, something gouging, some Roaring Moon, frenzied gouging, the attack, yes. being able to stream that attack back to back is pretty important, and Dark Patch is the key. So yeah, that's the vibes. You could also approach this matchup a little differently if you play 3 Roaring Moon EX. Or, I guess, if you start Roaring Moon EX, you could approach this matchup where you just only power up Roaring Moon EXs, but then you get into this weird spot where, like, especially if they're playing the 60 HP Charmander, they can take a 1 prizer for 2 prizer trade, because the 60 HP Charmander can attack for 30 for 1 energy. And so when you use the Frenzy Gouging, it puts you to 30 hit points, and the one energy Charmander can attack and knock out the Roaring Moon. Anyway, very difficult matchup if you're me. But if you watch this video and you learned anything at all, and you took anything from this gameplay, then it shouldn't be that difficult. It shouldn't be too hard for you. He's able to just boss KO our guy, and we can't really do much else but BM KO with Dunsparce, and so I'm going to do that for the sake of the video. We're just going to attach that 1 energy. I think about evolving, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's what's going to happen. Bench the other Dunsparce, because realistically, there's just nothing I can draw here. I'll have to promote the Dunsparce here and attach a Darkness Energy and go for the Gnaw KO. And a little Gnaw KO for the fans, but definitely an L that should have been a W. You know the vibes. Moving on. Just do it. Just do it, bro. Just attack. Just end this game. Just end your own suffering. Just let him take the KO with the Charizard. All right. Not a bad matchup. There can be tech cards that make it bad. The maximum belt can make it tough because that means Charizard can deal 290 after you've taken 2 prize cards, which can KO a fresh Roaring Moon EX with the tool on. So there's a lot of like numbers things that like line up weird if they play maximum belt. There's a lot of numbers things that line up weird if they play Mist Energy. If they do play Mist Energy, then your best bet is to just like stream Roaring Moon babies back to back and never go for the Roaring Moon EX. But if they play Mist Energy and multiple Turos, or if they're able to get that set up and smoothly running very quickly, and they have the turn 2 KO, it can be really, really tough. So a lot of stuff to take into consideration. A very complex and a very deep matchup. A lot of navigational things, a lot of informational things. If you see stuff in a mulligan, it can change the whole way you play this game, the whole way you map this matchup out. Definitely a fun one, though. Definitely a fun one. I think this might be one of my most favorite matchups in all of this metagame right now is Double Moon versus Charizard. I think it's one of the most fun matchups just because of how skill testing it is on both sides. The Charizard player really needs to pick the right cards with Pidgeot. If you pick the wrong card even once, it can cost you the whole game. And the same thing on the Roaring Moon side. You have to play this really deep sort of resource control game with managing your dark patches and knowing when to pressure and when to hold stuff. Anyway, moving on, up against Alolan Arceus for the second game here that I've got for you guys. Second game, you know, you learn some. You see a match, you get a Dunsparce KO, and then you dip, and then you're like, all right, we learned some stuff. We know what to do in the Charizard matchup now. We know what not to do, but do we know what to do in the Alolan Arceus Vulpix sort of Noivern matchup? Because this matchup can be tricky too, simply because they can block out your basic attackers. That being said, their deck is a little bit less consistent than the Charizard deck, so we take that. We take that. Our opening here is very solid. We've got a Dunsparce, we've got a Roaring Moon, and we've got Radiant Greninja, so best thing you can ask for turn 1 is just getting your bench loaded up with Dunsparces and Radiant Greninja not being prized. That's honestly like all you can ask for. And also not having a 2-prizer locked in your active is very nice. Part of the reason I don't play 3 of the 2-prizers is just because in a lot of matchups you just don't want the 2-prizer to be your starter. So I like having 9 non-2-prizer starters and 2 2-prizer starters. So it's just like unfortunate 2-prize starts happen very infrequently. Anyway, we draw energy for turn, which is the perfect draw. That means we actually might not even need to Explorer's Guidance here. He starts off with the Alolan Vulpix Energy Lotto into I believe it was a double turbo. But yeah, he's missed on a turn 1 Arceus, so a little bit slow start from the opponent. That being said, he does have a Pokemon we can't really KO. He has Bidoof to maybe get out of things with Bibarel, so he's not completely out of the game. And this deck usually plays, or his deck usually plays a solid amount of draw supporters, usually Ionos and Judges, so we've got to be a little bit careful to play around that as well. We find another Dunsparce. That's that boy. I decided to go for the Sawdust for 1, I believe. No, I actually go for Explorer's Guidance. I value my setup a little bit more here than I value the attack. Interesting. Maybe I thought I could get more out of the Sawdust. Anyway, we see some good cards off this Explorer's Guidance. I decide to take the Earthen Vessel and the Roaring Moon because Earthen Vessel can get us to some energy and it can discard Roaring Moon EX, which we can always put back with the Super Rod in our hand. So I'm just discarding him for now because I don't want to get like Erica's Invitation. I don't know if they play. I don't know what that deck plays. I'm going to be honest. I know Alolan Vulpix plus Arceus is a popular deck in online tournaments, but I don't know what it plays. I play the Dark Patch here to play around possible Judge, possible Iono, that sort of thing. And I just pass the turn back. Just pass the turn back. I don't know why I attached to the active because my Pokemon's getting knocked out. Pretty silly attach for me, but I just didn't know what the deck does. There I am reading Alolan Vulpix VSTAR. Turns out it attacks for 160. It also has an ability that means if I have abilities, I cannot damage it on the next turn, which it makes a lockout Pokemon out of it, basically. He's able to bench Arceus V. Now, Arceus V-Star is actually a pain to KO. So is this Alolan Vulpix V-Star. 240 is a pretty strong hit point for early game Roaring Moon to be able to deal with. That being said, I've got Boss's Orders, and I am dealing 120, and he is light on cards. So if I can knock out this Bibarel and he's not able to find an Arceus V-Star, that could be pretty good for us. Anyway, I'm going to Nest Ball out the Roaring Moon because I'm going to make him need a Draw Supporter or a Boss's. Can't have both here. Going to go ahead and conceal cards, draw 2. We can now Sawdust. We drew into Countercatcher, which is beautiful, which means we can Sawdust and Countercatcher in the same turn. We also drew into Dunsparce. So our deck is just like activated. It's happening. We didn't prize multiple Dunsparce in this game. We're actually cooking. We're able to Sawdust attach 2 energy, draw 3 cards. We're able to find an Earthen Vessel, find Artisan. We've got all the sauce. I consider playing this Artisan. I think I do not this turn. I think I hold it for a turn. I discard Explorer's Guidance. Once again, you don't really want to be playing those past the first turn of the game. Search Double Energy. Go ahead and Artisan. I guess I do. I guess I do play it to grab Roaring Moon out of the deck. We are going to attach to the Roaring Moon. Interesting choice. I don't know why I'm choosing all of this. I do want to have the Roaring Moon EX access so I can KO Arceus V-Star. But I think this turn I go for KOing the Bibarel just to cut him off cards. He's like so low on cards that it's pretty difficult for him to piece together an Arceus V-Star if he doesn't already have one. Like he'll have to Ultra Ball discard his whole hand. Which of course, you know, if he does, then he's got a way to find Iono in the Starbirth ability, but maybe he'll have to discard something good. I don't know. Anyway, he does end up having the Arceus V-Star. He does end up having a energy that I've never seen before. I think it's a therapeutic medical energy. When you attach it, it heals 30 damage. Very interesting card. I've just never seen that before. He Eries discards Ultra Ball and Super Rod, but makes me pretty happy that I have burned the Dark Patch early because in this matchup, he has a lot of hand disruption. It's a lot of Judge, a lot of that sort of thing. That being said, I'm pretty surprised he didn't go for the Starbirth yet. He's giving me an opportunity to boss up his Arceus and KO it this turn if we're able to find a way to accelerate onto the Roaring Moon EX. So could be really good for us. Unfortunately, our Countercatcher is gone, so we can't like Explorer's Guidance and hit a Countercatcher here. And also, yeah, that's it. I guess we could try and find Prime Catcher. I go for the... We do have a lot of draws to find Prime Catcher, technically, though. We have 23 cards left in our deck. We've got 6 off the Explorer's Guidance, 2 off of the Greninja, and then 3 off to Dunsparce, possibly another 3 off to Dunsparce. So it's possible we're seeing 14 cards deep into our 23-card deck, which is a very high chance at getting access to the Prime Catcher. I can't lie. It's over 50% chance to see Prime Catcher here, so it could be worth just like going for a big deep dig turn. Because like even if we don't hit it, then like we just attack the Vulpix, and like there's nothing wrong with that, you know. We're still trading 1 Prizer attacks for 2 Prizer attacks, and that's ultimately favorable for us. We go for the Dunsparce first, draw 3 cards, we find an Energy, Ancient Booster, and a Sawdust. I decide to just go for the safe Sawdust here, I believe. Yes. Attach 2 Energy, draw 3 cards, find some tools, some solid boys. We've got Ancient Booster on both Roaring Moons. What's really nice is this Vulpix cannot KO my Roaring Moon with the Ancient booster. So he'll have to spend a Starbirth on a Lost Vac if he wants to KO. We're able to Dunsparce yet again. The draw engine's fully firing. We've got the Artisan to Dunsparce stuff activated. The coolest part of this deck is Artisan to Dunsparce for sure. You just play it, you search another one, you play it, you draw 6 extra cards every single turn. It's so broken. You basically get to stack your deck every single turn. It's so good, especially against like the meta of like Iono, which is a lot of the way decks disrupt you, basically. It's nice to keep shuffling cards like Nest Ball around, so you can also shuffle your deck if you get key cards Iono to the bottom. Anyway, we don't end up finding the catcher or whatever, but I decided to just go for the Frenzy Gouging, take 2 prizes, and just put myself back in the game. I don't know if this was correct. I probably should have saved the Frenzied Gouging for the Arceus VSTAR, but, you know, boy wanted to take prizes, alright? I wanted to take some prize cards, alright? What can I say? I could have also, like, not done this and just, like, powered up the Baby Moon and bossed the Arceus and hit the Arceus and been, like, checkmate, basically. Because what is the Vulpix ever doing to me, you know? The Vulpix can't even KO a Baby Moon with a tool, you know? It can't even... It hits for 160. What kind of damage is that? What kind of damage is 160? Are you really playing a game where you're hitting for 160? Really? Anyway, he Starbursts. He goes and gets some more stuff. He plays this Pokemon League Headquarters, which is normally actually a difficult deck or a difficult card for this deck to deal with. But we do have that extra Artisan to deal with it in our hand. So that being said, we get Iono'd, which does suck. But we find some busted cards here in Prime Catcher, Dark Patch, and Dunsparce. So once again, you get Iono'd with this deck. It doesn't even feel bad. You just Dunsparce it all back, you know? You did Dunsparce it all back. Arceus V hits the bench, knocks out the big Roaring Moon EX. Now he has to take 2 more attacks to win this game. But I believe we can Prime Catcher KO his Arceus. And then he attacks back. We don't even die because he has a double turbo. And so we should be okay. I think we're okay. I Nest Ball here to shuffle my deck because I liked what was in my hand. We go ahead and grab Dat Boy. You know Dat Boy, the Roaring Moon. We go ahead and play the Dunsparce. Draw 3 cards. See where we're getting. We find the Artisan, which is very nice. That means we can get another Dunsparce and get rid of this Pokemon League Headquarters. Super solid. We find Penny as well, which is great. That means if he knocks out my baby, or attacks my Baby Moon, we can just pick it up, make him attack it again. Super unfair. Penny becomes very busted versus these decks that can't deal 200 later in the game. So, very nice. Very nice. We've got the Earthen Vessel, but do we really want to discard anything? I end up discarding Dark Patch to find energy here. I don't know why I did that. Why am I doing all this? This doesn't seem good. I guess I just wanted to thin my deck more. And get my hand back up. I go for a Sada's. Interesting choice. Why did I do all this? I guess I wanted to get a Dunsparce in play. I think I did all this because I wanted to get a Dunsparce in play in case we get Iono to 1. Yeah, I think that's what the move was. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Yeah. Do I burn the trekking shoes? Yeah, I do. And I do keep the tool because it's just super difficult for him to get rid of his own double turbo energy and deal 200. He either has to find a Lost Vac or he just can't KO a Baby Moon. And we can Penny it back and just win the game. We have 6 cards in deck, so it's very unlikely we won't be able to draw into this Penny again, even if we get Iono to 1. So, yeah, I mean, things worked out really well. I know this deck can play, I think, what is it, Noivern EX? And that card can be a problem, but I don't know, man. Maybe we attack it with the Dunsparce. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is versus a lone Noivern. I'm going to be honest, I don't know what the plan is, but it doesn't look like he was playing the Noivern, which is good. I guess the plan is to just always KO the Noibats as soon as possible, which is nice. It's a nice little plan. We just go for the Penny here, and I think the opponent concedes. I think he just says it's over. He says it's Jover. Nest Ball? Question mark. Nest Ball fail. Yeah, I just hit for 220, I think. I don't know. Maybe I don't. Maybe I benched the other guy. Do I Dunsparce? I guess I want to get double Dunsparce down. I'm like trying to think of how I could lose. He could like boss Radiant Greninja. That's why we're like keeping as many energy as possible so we can like retreat a Radiant Greninja. Yeah, just shuffling back energy into the deck so that I have as many ways as possible to retreat a Radiant Greninja after an Iono. If his plan is to like deck me out somehow. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You know what, folks? I don't know. I don't know. He finds the mist energy, then he concedes. All right, get out of here. Get out of here. Learning from our mistakes, but up against Dialga in the next one. And this one was a tough one. As you can see, I started the recording a little late, but basically all that had happened was he found a Radiant Greninja, a Dialga, and he used the concealed cards. He was going first. You'll notice our hand, a little bit shy of a Radiant Greninja. A little bit shy of much, honestly. We go for the Artisan. You'll notice some stuff. We decide not to keep the tool. We find an Earthen Vessel. A lot of energy in this hand. No draw supporters, no Sadas, no Explorer's Guidance, no anything. I'm forced to attach to the Roaring Moon EX. Opponent goes draw for turn. He Artisans, finds himself a Beldum. So Artisan definitely working against us in this matchup. Don't want your opponent to be able to streamline those Beldums. I think this is a matchup where you might not even want to play the Artisans until you can discard them. But it's not good. It's not good. He Ultra Balls discarding Prime Catcher, and I'm like, oh, it's so over. It's so over. It's so over. That means he has the research. That means he has the turn 2 Star Chronos. And I'm just sitting here like, what? I didn't even get a chance to play this game. I literally didn't even get a chance to play. Opponent is moving attached cards. That's like the scariest shit you can see. And then just 5 energy. He hit 3. He hit 3 off the Metang, dude. 1 Metang and he hit 3. Like, come on. Oh, did he hit 4? He might have even hit 4. 1 on... I just smashed that concede button. You know what? Dialga players, if you open like this every single game, you've got the best deck in the format. But let's be real. Let's be real, Dialga copers, I should say. You got a regional win. All right, you got a regional win. You got this W on me. But you don't get this consistently. Let's be real. Let's be real. You don't get this consistently, all right? All right, I know you. I know you're gambling. You're gambling, man. All right? All right, I see you. I see you on the other side of the screen. All right. Next regional winning deck that we're playing against is Snorlax Control. This is match number 4. I think I have 5 matches for you guys today. A lot of bangers. A lot of bangers. The Dialga one was, oh, that was a feel that. Dude, losing in Pokemon to something like that, before we move on, is so demoralizing. It's like, oh my gosh, why am I even here? But you gotta maintain the strong mental and grind. Get more games for the video, Keegan. Keep them coming, all right? You know, gotta keep going. All right, anyway, we win the coin flip, which is always nice. Just always. I like going first with this deck. It means you can get your Dunsparces active as soon as possible. We start off with lone Dunsparce, and I see a Mimikyu. So that means one of 2 things. It means either it's Gardevoir, or it's some sort of stall deck. And I actually think this deck, our deck in particular, beats the heck out of stall decks. I think the sort of control decks, if they become more and more popular, the Moon deck just absolutely destroys it. You start getting KOs like turn 2, turn 3 really easily. They mill you. They just power up your Moons. They can't really trap anything in the active besides Radiant Greninja, and you can always just penny that. Oh, it's so rough. It's so rough for them. They have to get so lucky to win this game. As long as I just don't bench Radiant Greninja, like, I'm fine. Like, I just win. Guaranteed. Turns out it's Snorlax Mill, and I'm just like, yeah, we take those. He finds Eerie. He Eerie's my counter catcher, and I'm like, lol. The one matchup where counter catcher actually will never, it will never do anything. He sees my hand. He knows what's coming. I've got the Dunsparces online. You can't trap a Dunsparce, baby. He'll just burrow his way out of there. He'll go right back into the deck. You can't deck me out. You can't even hang. Anyway, I decided to go for the Prime Catcher, just because like it's our switch effect. So worst case scenario, our Greninja gets trapped somehow. I don't know how, but yeah, we retreat. We go for the Dunsparce. I probably shouldn't have retreated, but it's all the same. Doesn't really matter. We're gonna draw 3. We find the Ancient Booster Capsule, which we can attach. Silly move to attach, actually. Probably shouldn't have done that, because it's something that we may have wanted to discard to power up our Roaring Moon. It doesn't end up mattering. He hits double Dark Patch, which can be annoying, and then he pal pads back his cards. But I'm just like, dude, I have 36 cards in deck. Like, you have 4 cards in hand. I'm taking KOs this turn, baby. This is happening right now. I can Sawdust. I can have 2 attackers. You can't do anything. You can't. It's over. Don't even need to play the Artisan. Don't even need to play the Nest Ball. It's just over. It's Jover, if you will. We knock out the Mimikyu. We're going to start knocking out the Snorlaxes. Oh, it's just done. It's just concede. Just concede. If you ever get to this point with the Snorlax deck, just know it's over. Like, what? Don't play it out. Don't even waste the viewer's time. Just understand that you've been bested by a better deck. All right? There's nothing more satisfying than beating the heck out of Block Snorlax. I actually, personally, hate Block Snorlax more than any deck imaginable. Never catch me playing that. I don't care if it's the best deck in the metagame. I don't care if it's the regional winning deck list. I don't care if it's the choice. All right? I have morals. I have integrity. I will never be sleeving up a Block Snorlax. Miss me with that shit. I swear. I actually hate it so much. It's like the most infuriating part of the game to just have something locked in the active. Murkrow was a problem. All right? It was a problem in Neo's Genesis or whatever back then. They never needed to bring Murkrow back, all right? But they did, and they made it an ability. They brought it back twice. Anyway, the opponent concedes, and we give him a little victory dance. Get owned. You know what? Let's just take a look at this nice little concession one more time. Actually, let's do a slow-mo. Let's do a slow-mo on the concession. 0.5x speed. 0.5x speed. Let's see it. Vengeance Fletching. Knock out the Snorlax. Oh, baby, so satisfying. That's just, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like seeing a Block Snorlax get blown away by the Roaring Moon, getting knocked all the way to the discard pile. You guys know what I'm saying. Look at this. Look at this. Opponent draws card. 3 cards in hand. 1 Block Snorlax in play. What are you even doing, boy? What are you even doing? What are you even doing? Huh? Keep it real. Keep it real. What are you even doing? Oh. Opponent conceded. Justice. All right. Last match I got for you guys is another Arceus match. Arceus, very popular lately. It's been doing well in online tournaments. It's a very simple deck, and it's a very powerful deck. So, it has a lot of upsides. Has a lot of free win factor. Has a lot of appeal to it. That being said, I think the Moon deck does pretty well versus the Arceus decks, provided they don't play Noivern and they aren't able to get that boy poppin'. If they can get the Noivern poppin', then I don't really know what we're supposed to do. But maybe we'll figure something out. Maybe there's something there. Maybe we deck them out or something. I don't know. We could penny to survive. I honestly don't know. Anyway, this opponent started off much stronger. He's got Arceus V in the active. He went first. He's got a double turbo. He's got Pidgey on the bench. So threatening a lot, basically. And our hand here is not, let's just say it's not great. Okay, let's just say it. We have to Artisan for Baby Moon, Dat Boy, Earthen Vessel, probably pitching a Sada's Vitality. Unfortunately, I decided to pitch Penny. That might have been a silly choice. That being said, because of that double turbo, this Arceus VSTAR, when it evolves, cannot KO the Roaring Moon because I have the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. Now, he could KO it if he searches Lost Vacuum, but that forces one of his Starbursts to be for Lost Vacuum. So, I'm A-okay with taking that trade, taking a prize for a nerfed search from the opponent. I'm totally fine with that. But that being said, our setup's not as good as his. For sure, it's not as good as his. He's got the Irida. He's got Alolan Vulpix on deck. He's got Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball can find him the Arceus V-Star. So, definitely fully stacked here. He's just got it all. Now, I was thinking he could have Irida'd for like Rare Candy and then Ultra Ball for Pidgeot, and then Pidgeot searched the Arceus V-Star, and then he could have got that set up that way. But maybe there was more to the story here. Maybe he prized something, or I don't really know. But thing is, he's not going to be able to set up the Pidgeot this turn. He's just going to search a Bidoof. He's going to Lost Vac. So he did end up finding the Lost Vac, which is a little annoying, a little bit difficult for us, but we'll take the prize knockout, whatever. We'll take it. You know what? 1 prize isn't the end of the world. You can definitely win 1 prize behind. All right? You can definitely win, especially if your opponent's got a bunch of 2 prizes in there. Don't give up hope. It may look tough for us, but we drew Nest Ball, which is the best card in our deck. That can find us Radiant Greninja, and he's there. So Doing a little prize check here. Probably should have done that last turn, but you know what? Better late than never, and never give up. Never surrender. Go for the Radiant Greninja, pitch, draw two, and even in lost games, even in lost games, if you play them out, you can learn something. So when you're playing on Pokemon TCG Live, unless you're a control player, I think you should concede every game if you're a control player, but if you're not a control player, there's value to playing out some lost games, There's value to playing out some. Some lost games. Not all, but some. You can find some new situations. Sawdust, draw three. Earthen Vessel, pitch Explorer's Guidance, the best discard because you never want to play it. Draw two energy, attach another energy. I am attacking this turn. And do you have another Lost Vacuum? I don't think so, sir. I don't think so. We're going to hit for 120. Now, next turn we do have to get some ancient cards in the discard in order to KO this Arceus V-Star. So that's it's potentially problematic. But he's able to find by barrel. He's able to attach a double turbo to the Pidgey. And he's able to draw three cards off his by barrel. So pretty strong setup for him. He's got his draw Pokemon online. He's got Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball can find him Alolan guy. Oh, I guess he goes for Regigigas. So he's playing Regigigas. This Pokemon's actually pretty good. I think Regigigas is slept on. I have to read it here because I don't remember what the basic does, but I actually think it's a pretty strong card. He has a little bit of a rage attack. It's very similar to like the Dragon Outrage from those Pokemon. Anyway, we Artisan out another Roaring Moon. We Greninja, draw two more cards. We find Countercatcher, which is excellent. And once again, I find myself in a situation where I'm up against an Arceus deck. He's already used his Starbirth, and I can Countercatcher and KO by barrel. Stay in the prize trade, force the opponent to put two more ancient cards in my discard pile towards that 160 KO, and cut him off of cards. I mean, he only has two cards in hand. How is he getting out of this situation? I decided to go for Explorer's Guidance, trying to hit three ancient cards. Unfortunately, we don't. We're still a little bit shy of KOing the Arceus, even with the Vessel pitching the Explorer's Guidance. We only have 150 damage with the Roaring Moon in the active here. So I decided to go for the Dunsparce draw, try to find another way to discard an ancient card, but we just don't get there. And I'm like, you know what? I'll attach. I'll take my KO on the by barrel, and we'll just see where that goes with him having no draw power. I think him prizing whatever card he prized to not be able to set up his Pidgeot, definitely affecting the consistency of his build here because he's got a thin Pidgeot line and is suffering from prizing stuff, basically. I'm assuming. Otherwise, I don't know why he wouldn't have set up both Pidgeot and Arceus V-Star. It did get me thinking, though. It did get me thinking that Pidgeot EX in Arceus Alolan Vulpix is actually pretty interesting, especially with the Irida. I actually think that there's a lot of merit to that. I think that is possibly a very strong deck, and it might be something I want to try in the future. Anyway, we KO the Bibarrel. He doesn't have that draw goodness. He doesn't have that swag. He doesn't have it like that, basically. He can KO my Roaring Moon, but that's only one prize, and then we KO back, and we take two prizes, and actually puts us up, straight up, just up. We get Iono to 5, which sucks, but not really, It's like, it does suck, but not really. It is a little unfortunate we don't have a Dunsparce in play, so we can't do Dunsparce next turn, but it's fine. We've got another attacker lined up, so we can try and set up multiple Dunsparces and then go from there. He's able to evolve into the Alolan V-Star. He's going to Nest Ball out another Arceus, and then go for the Trinity Nova KO. That KOs the Roaring Moon. He has no more energy to attach to his Arceus V-Star, or Arceus V on the bench, and we promote our Moon and draw to Trekking Shoes. So Trekking Shoes is pretty interesting. I decided Nest Ball and Artisan, and I decided Nest Ball for Roaring Moon EX, because that can help us take our last two prize cards, and he's a little bit more of a resilient boy. You feel me? My prize map right now is try to KO this Arceus, or KO the Arceus V-Star in the active, then KO the Pidgey, and KO one of the weaker Pokemon. We can KO an Arceus V if he doesn't find the V-Star with just the second, I think it's Calamity Storm off of Roaring Moon EX, and then he'll have trouble KOing it back, which is nice. We Trekking Shoes, find Capsule. I decided to add it to my hand. I could have milled it over, but I figured it would be necessary to put on the Roaring Moon EX to defend it from being KO'd, and Sada's going to get us to the lethal 160 damage on the Roaring Moon here. It actually is already all the way up to 180 because he KO'd a a dude last turn. I go for the Dark Patch now. I believe I attach the Ancient Booster. Do I Prime Catch or something? Oh, wow. Huh. This is interesting. So I decide to go for the Prime Catcher on the Arceus VSTAR or on the Pidgey to take my 1 prize now so I can put myself back on even prizes. Huh. And it also cuts him off from being able to set up the Pidgeot still. As he's taking prizes, it's very likely he's drawing those cards that can help him set up that Pidgeot. I actually don't hate this play now that I'm thinking about it. This is good good foresight in my game plan here. Shuffle back a couple of those boys so we have enough attackers to go for. Got the double Dunsparce set up. We're able to attach the tool, retreat, go ahead and knock out the Pidgey. Yeah, I think this is good because he also can't KO me back with any of his Pokemon in play. So we're going to be taking a 2 prize knockout one way or another. And then we've got the big Roaring Moon EX for the Frenzy Gouging finish. And I think he's kind of seeing the writing on the wall. He's kind of seeing it. He probably just doesn't have it like that. You know, he just don't got it like that. And as long as we find an energy, which we should be able to do because we can Ultra Ball for the Dunsparce and then just draw cards and start the engine. He's able to Turos away his damaged Arceus V-Star, which does complicate things, but, I mean, it loses him a lot of energy, loses him an attacker, and it's not like Alolan Vulpix or Regigigas are really threatening us. He ends up conceding there. Maybe he had to go. I don't know. But I think that the way the game was lining up is we were going to win. I think that we had the setup there. I think we had the board stuff. And I think he recognized that there wasn't really a way for him to pull back into that game because his numbers weren't lining up well against the tools on the Roaring Moon. And he didn't have a way to block that one-hit KO because I think his missed energy was gone, if I remember correctly. So he knew 2 prize was coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I actually really like this deck. This is a bit of a longer video, but we're trying to hit that watch time. We're trying to hit that 1,000 subscribers. So please subscribe. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and leave a like. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.